But I'm
That
so
is,
excited for Kelsey.
no, Heather's been in a lot of our challenge groups, I feel like, and she's awesome. Like, she's always sharing, and like, so I feel like she's been on this journey for a while, so I'm pumped that she's going to coach. That's awesome.
She was in the sneak peek on Thursday.
Awesome.
So exciting stuff.
Yeah, I have a new coach starting as well soon. She's going to be buying her Hammer and Chisel Challenge pack tonight, but she's already been doing Beachbody on Demand, and her husband does T25 and all that good stuff. So I'm pumped to be having her start. And then I'm hoping the girl that I ran into at the grocery store, like, I don't know if you guys saw that story, but I was literally dying. Like, I love when that kind of stuff, it's like serendipitous, you know? So I'm going to be chatting with her tomorrow. And so it's exciting to all these new coaches. Hey, Cindy. Anyone else have any shout outs? Shout outs to Stephanie's adorable new dogs. How about that? Her new children, her fur kids.
I was going to show you hi, but he's barking at a piece of glass right now. Like, seriously? Why?
He really is like a kid. See, Claire likes to look in glass and pretend that she's like kissing herself. So that's probably what's going on right now. All right. So anyone else before we kick off? Okay. So this kind of subject spawned from a couple podcasts that I listened to this week. And they kind of resonated with me. So my thought was that maybe it was something that would resonate with all of you. When it comes to fear, I feel like it takes on a lot of different faces. Like, there's a ton of different kinds of fear. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of how are other people gonna, think of me. No one's gonna wanna listen to me, like that self-sabotage kind of stuff. And so I thought it would be good just to kind of talk through some of these different types of fear. I'm also going to share with you some fears that I've had on my journey over the past year, and then maybe just some tools that we can use to help manage the fear. Because the truth of the matter is that fear is never going to go away. I think it's kind of silly when people think, well, just don't be scared, like just work through it and it'll just go away. But the thing is, it doesn't go away. Laurie shared one of my favorite quotes today in our PIO challenge group when, fear isn't it's something along the lines of like it's not the absence of fear. It's like the courage to like kind of feel that fear and do that act, do the thing anyway, despite it. And I'm a big believer in that. The fear will always be there, but it's kind of what we do even when we know that we're feeling it. So to start off, I figure, I'd just be a little bit vulnerable with all of you guys and, share a little bit of the fears that I face, because I know that, I am a confident person. I come across as pretty confident, but, a lot of times I'm not super confident and I just like do crazy stuff anyway. And I just keep moving forward because that's just kind of like who I am. But I think it's important for all of you to know that like there are times when are there any kids around, like scared poopless too, So when I first started on this coaching journey, guys, I was like, oh, like I'll just maybe help a few people and pay for my Shakeology. Like I didn't know the first thing about network marketing. I didn't know anything about anything. I was kind of like, I'm going to give this a shot because the programs worked for me. I love Shakeology. Like I've never done anything like this before. So I jumped into it and, not immediately, but within a couple months, I realized, well, there's this other aspect of coaching besides sharing these programs and products. You start, recruiting more coaches on your team and you become a leader for them and you want to help them be successful too. And it was at that point where I realized I liked that side of the business, but I was like, I don't know how to be, a leader in a business that I know like next to nothing about. Like, what am I supposed to do? So, poor Carrie and Sam are kind of like my guinea pigs. They're like, we're all just trucking along together. We started having team calls. Guys, I'm not a public speaker. Like, I didn't just like, know how to run calls. I didn't know what Zoom chat was. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. So then I started to have this fear, and it was, oh my gosh, am I going to fail Sam and Carrie? Am I good enough to help them on this journey? And so that was the first fear I kind of had. It was, I don't think I'm good enough. I'm afraid of, and it was never even about me failing. It was about, leading them to failure, right? So I don't know if any of you can relate to that. As a new coach, that's scary. It's one of the reasons I think we're afraid to share the business opportunity, is because we feel like we're not good enough. How could we possibly lead other people if we ourselves are just beginning our journey? But again, I kept trucking, and I kept, growing this team because I believe in it and I just love it so much. And I was having fun. Like I made sure to keep this fun as well. So then it became, oh my gosh, the team is growing like crazy. This is probably around the time that Lisa joined us and Cindy. I feel like the two of you probably joined around the same time, if I'm remembering correctly. And I thought, wow, okay, now I don't know if I can handle this. How many coaches can this team, am I going to lead them to failure? But also, what if I'm really successful at this? What if I build this ginormous team and I don't have the time to support it? I have a family, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Maybe I should stop sharing the business opportunity because I just can't even go there. I can't even think about that idea of being successful at this. So I went from this whole fear of like, I'm not good enough, to this fear of, oh my gosh, what if I am good enough, but I literally can't handle it. So that was sort of like that second phase of fear that, came into existence for me. And then since then, guys, like those were kind of the two main points. But since then, I've had all the same things like, ooh, if I share like anything having to do with like how much money I'm making, like are people going to be like, ew, are they going to judge me? My poor husband. And like, if I keep sharing all these selfies, is he going to start getting flack from his friends? And trust me, and my dad actually, this is hysterical, a little side note, but it all goes into the same thing. My dad goes, yeah, my friends tell me they see you headstanding everywhere. So people see us, we're out in the public light, and, it's natural to kind of start to feel a little bit, like, oh my gosh, people are really seeing me. Like, is this okay? And it kind of, it holds you back a little bit. It makes you kind of stop and press pause and see, am I on the right path here? Because this is really scary. And so the kind of the thing I wanted to, Seth doesn't like when his students talk about seeing me on Facebook. Yeah, Greg doesn't care. He's kind of like whatever, he's like that. He's very supportive of all this. Not that Seth isn't supportive, but maybe he's just used to my craziness by now. And so in all these instances though, you guys, like I never tried to kind of just push the fear away. I kind of acknowledged it. And so I think that's the first step, is not trying to chase the fear away and say, I'm just going to keep going, or I'm just going to shut down. I think the key is to identify it and figure out, okay, why is this fear here? And get down to the root of it, and then decide, is the reason that I'm going to move forward from this a bigger reason than my fear? Like, is it for a greater reason? Can I kind of like acknowledge that this is going on in my mind and then just keep going anyways? So that's sort of like the first thing I would do if you are feeling afraid of something and not sure what to do at that point. Has anybody kind of raised their hand, experienced any of the fears that I kind of just mentioned there in my story? Does anyone want to share like anything at all? Because I would love to sort of, this is like the segue into the next point. So maybe we stop here and we could have a little sharing time. Feel free to speak or chat, or if you're not comfortable, that's totally fine too. Okay, that's cool. That's totally fine. We don't, go ahead, Stephanie.
Sorry, I couldn't get it to unmute.
No, don't worry about it.
I totally hear you on the fear of not being good enough. I don't know, 6 months, I think I've been doing this. And I literally feel like I go through that in a cycle, like every 4 to 5 weeks. And it's like, it doesn't ever actually go away. So like you said, acknowledging that is happening and that the reason that you're doing this is bigger than the fear has been what's gotten me through. But in the beginning, I think I did like a post in the group about it back in like February or March. And because it was really, really affecting like if I was going to actually move forward with this opportunity or not. but I didn't even realize that I was afraid in the beginning. So one of the things that in personal development, guys, is huge. If you are not reading every day, I have become like the biggest cheerleader for personal development, because honestly, if I'm not reading every day, I'll notice within a couple of days that those fears and that negative self-talk and everything really start to sneak back in. So it's like you kind of have to play offense on it, which is, oh, the dog's getting down now, which is something that I actually listened to a webinar by Shalene the other day about playing offense with things, like getting at them first and kind of making sure that you're doing things to kind of offset those fears or overeating, like really anything in your life. So that's been a big thing for me. And he's going to start barking, so I'm going to mute again.
Okay. No, it is really interesting because it can take on so many different things. Like you were talking about sort of self-doubt, but that self-doubt can even turn into self-sabotage. And there are other ways, other things that could be fear that you wouldn't even think of. Like there have been times when, like I remember, last year it was I had a really bad month, and it wasn't even that I was fearing failure anymore. I'm like, well, whatever. I've hit Success Club like before. So it's like this apathy that happens. It's almost like, well, whatever. Like I don't really care about this right now anyway. So I'll feel better next week. Like I'll start again next week. And that's fear too, because that's like, well, actually it's just that you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment again. So that's why you're, so there's so many different faces that it can take on. Boredom's another one. There have been times when, I have gotten completely like tired of the program I'm doing. And it's like you get bored and you don't feel inspired anymore, and then you don't want to share. And then, so that's like, and it's another form of fear too. Why not just shake things up and start anew? But then you think to yourself, oh, okay, am I really up for that motivation to start a new program? Like, guys, this is so real. And this is so like everybody deals with this. And again, it's just acknowledging it and figuring out, what do I need to do now? Like I was actually, that last one was something I was facing just before I started P90X3. I was like, okay, what program do I do now? I'm kind of bored with this. So shaking things up, I think, can be a really good thing too. Did anyone else want to kind of share any fears that they've had?
I'm always afraid of looking stupid, so I'll just throw that out there. I'm always afraid of people judging and, just being perceived negatively because of the sharing. So I think that's like a big thing.
So, Lori, I'm a perfectionist. That's something that I've struggled with a lot over the past year and a half, and I love it. So Elizabeth Gilbert, she said it perfectly. She said, perfectionism is fear in high heels. And I just thought that was like such a cute way of saying it. And I think that definitely takes a lot of personal development to dig into. The Gifts of Imperfections could be a really good book for you. I read that and it was really helpful to me. And essentially for me, the way I've worked through that the most is that anytime I start to become afraid of judgment, I look at the bigger picture, I reconnect with my why, and I realize even if there are 100 people who look at my post and mock me or say, what's her deal? If even one person looks at that post and they're inspired by it, even if they don't reach out to me or we ever connect, in that instance I made them smile or I made them feel less alone, then it's worth it to me. But I have to constantly, Lori, perfectionism is my biggest thing. I'm type A, craziness, like perfectionist. And I definitely have to work on that. So I'm with you. And I think just kind of, like what I said, that's my biggest tool for that.
Yeah, I think it's just like a muscle. I just have to, like everything else, but you just have to build it up. So, but we'll get there, hopefully.
You will. Oh, it's a journey. Thank you for sharing, though. Anybody else?
I think kind of building on Lori's things, one of my fears is like when you put that post out there, it's the negative. Sometimes I've literally got like, and I've told you this, Lindsay, like negative comments from people that like when you're my biggest fear when I became a coach was like making my Facebook public, because I spent so long in my life blocking everything from crazy people. And so when it becomes open again, the crazies can come back in. So my fear is like with that post I did today, like I know the crazies can see it. And so it's just like the fear of like what they're going to say, because what they say, even though it's not a fault of mine, but like they have a higher, what they say weighs a little bit more sometimes. So it's like, you don't want to put it out there to help somebody because I don't want to put out there to help somebody because I'm scared that I'm just going to end up in like a really bad place because of it. So it's like that fear of kind of who's going to see it, who's going to react to it. Because some people are just straight up mean.
No, that's hard. You're in a place where you're still working through stuff with as you're putting it, with the crazy. So it's hard to connect to like, oh, well, at least I'm helping this person, because you need to feel good first. Like, you're not quite at that point where, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, at the same time, I can't possibly even think of one negative thing that post could bring up for someone to say. Like, I literally can't even.
Oh, well, people can. That's
so,
the thing.
like, nuts to me. Like, it's, so all I can say is to, lean on us for that, and just know that, like, you have, and I know you have a huge support system in Nick too, that you are helping people, and I just hope that things get better in that way.
Oh, yeah.
It was an awesome post though, Lisa. It really was.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
And I think, can you block those suckers? I think
They found me on my like page.
It's blocked on your they're blocked on your personal page though, right? So maybe you just post that stuff on your personal, But yeah, besides instances like that, because that's obviously, seriously, report them. Honestly, like, that's a, heavier issue than just thinking like, oh, well, are people going to judge my body? Are people going to judge my words? Like, that's a different situation. But I would say for, the other situations, that kind of another thing to think about when you start, it's kind of your ego talking, right? Like, when you start to think like, what are people going to think of me if I post this? If you turn it back to the people you're trying to serve, then that really does help. It's like, okay, now it's not about me and how I look. Like, if you put something out there and you're vulnerable, people are going to appreciate that you're just being your authentic self, that you're just being you. And it kind of releases that burden on yourself. And it's telling the ego, okay, like, I hear you, I get it, this is hard for you, but let's work together so that we can help people. So acknowledging it and letting it go. Anybody else? These are all awesome, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. So this second part kind of blew my mind. So are you ready for this? Are you ready for the second part that blew my mind? Okay, so I got this. I was listening to, hold on, let me check the chat to make sure I didn't. Okay. I was listening to TED Radio, which I love NPR and I love TED Talks. So there's a podcast, TED Radio, that I really love, and they have like a bunch of great topics. And this one in particular was called Nudge. And I loved it. If any of you are up for a really good podcast, but they're about an hour, so you need a little bit more time, this one was really, really good. But one section of it, this person who was being interviewed actually works with children, and she's a child psychologist. And she was essentially talking about how some kids, when given a challenge, they immediately shut down when it's above their ability. And they say, I can't do this, I'm going to fail. Like 10-year-olds we're talking about. And they don't want to do it because it's different to them. They don't want to do it. Like, they're done. They shut down. Whereas other kids look at this challenge and they say, wow, this is kind of fun and exciting. Like, I'm gonna learn something new. Let's break into this. Let's figure out what this is all about and see what we can do. So it's more about the process and the growth process, whereas with other children, they are perfectionists, as Laura and I were talking about, and they don't want to be pushed. They want to stay in their comfort zone. They want to know things and get praised for the good job, and you did really good. So as she's talking more and more about in this interview, the point of it was about how we can choose to either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, basically what it means is that all of our talents and our abilities and our potential is fixed. That if we live in a fixed mindset, if we have a fixed mindset, we limit ourselves in that way. We basically are thinking, okay, well, I'm this person, this is all I can do, so I might as well not like try to go beyond my bounds. I might as well not even try to learn something new. I might as well stay in my comfort zone because this is where I belong. This is where I can be. This is where I live. This is my space. Whereas in a growth mindset, you believe that you're born with certain things you're good at, certain things you're not so great at, but you have the ability to grow through, working through challenges, through learning new things, through asking for help and getting feedback. And in that way, your potential is boundless. It's infinite. It's like, and it's a choice that you can make. You can look at yourself as, okay, this is where I am and this is where I'll stay because it's just this is who I am. Or you can choose to look at yourself as this person who can learn and grow and change. And I will say this, you guys, if Beachbody, this opportunity has shown me anything, I feel like that's what this is all about. It kind of is like this personal growth mindset that we're trying to take on and trying to learn. That's what the personal development's all about. That's what taking care of our bodies and feeling our bodies is all about. And I think that when we do start to have all of these fears and things like that, that we do kind of put ourselves back into that bucket of being in a fixed mindset. And I think it's our jobs to try and get ourselves back into that personal growth mindset by making sure that we're doing all of these vital behaviors. This is a new concept to me. Am I making sense with what I'm saying so far? Can anyone kind of relate to maybe feeling like they're in a fixed mindset ever, or that they kind of put themselves in that?
Hi, Lindsay. It's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey. Yeah, I was going to say, other people too like it when you're kind of stuck in that zone of being comfortable, and it kind of throws things for them, even like not my husband, like he could care less, but like my friends, like some of them are like really negative about, and that's where I was thinking of the negative comments that others have had. Like, and it's not even about me, it's about other coaches that aren't in our group. They're like, oh, that girl doing this. And I'm like, well, that's what I do the same. I should be doing the same thing, but they're like, oh, well, you just, be a stay-home mom. You're so lucky to have that. And if you try to do any changes, they're like totally freaked out by it. And not that they're trying to discourage, but I think it's their own insecurities.
You nailed it, Michelle. It's their own fears.
Yeah.
Other people who are, I'll use the words like judgmental or cynical or pokes holes in things instead of being positive about it. Yeah. They themselves are probably in a bit of a fixed mindset and they're afraid of different.
And I don't want to say jealous, but sometimes it comes off that way. Like, and some of them are stay-at-home moms, some aren't. And they'll be like, oh, so-and-so's, posting all this stuff. And like, I'm like, who cares? Like, let them post stuff. It has nothing to do with you. I'm like, if you want it, take it. If you don't take it. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of weird. Like,
no, thank you for sharing that. And actually another point to what you're saying, sometimes we put ourselves into a fixed mindset because of other limitations that other people are putting on us. And that can start with, our family life when we're growing up. It could be who we surround ourselves. That's why we talk all the time about, surrounding yourself with people who lift you up and who don't bring you down and who want you to grow, who support you no matter what. Like, I don't talk about this a lot, but I have friends that I've definitely lost touch with, through this opportunity. But at the end of the day, I'm literally like, it doesn't bother me because I know that they obviously weren't a true friend to me anyway. Then I have friends who obviously, I don't need my friends to be a part of my Beachbody journey. Like, I have so many friends that they're not interested in Beachbody. We don't talk about Beachbody. We don't, and that's great. Like, she supports me. She'll ask, she'll be like, hey, how's your business going? I told him from me earlier, but I was in that. Wait, your brother Danny? Oh, I'm like, he's on the team. Danny's awesome. Oh. I mean, yeah, my brother, you know what's funny? I'm going to digress a little bit, you guys, but I think that you'll appreciate the point. My brother mentioned to my mom, wow, Lindsay's really putting herself out there, huh? And a year ago, that would have bugged the crap out of me. I would have been like, oh my God, what a jerk. Like, I need to talk to him, you know, and be like, but now it doesn't bother me. And you know why? Because of this. Because I know how many people I'm helping. And even bigger than that, he's about to start his own business. And he's going to be an independent consultant. He's going to be a financial advisor. And guess what he's going to need to do? He's going to need to attract customers. He's going to need to build his network. How do people do that now? By building a personal brand. That is what we're doing, you guys. We are building a personal brand in order to attract people to our business so we can help them. You can bring that as a Beachbody business. You could be a financial advisor. I don't care what. Even corporations now. I was talking to my dad who works at Dell. Even the Dell is encouraging people to create their own personal brand separate from the Dell brand. This goes so far beyond anything. This is the future of marketing. Like, this is everything, marketing, sales. I don't care what business you're in, you need to create a personal brand. And that's what we're doing. So if putting ourselves out there, if that, you know, helps you to think of it that way too, we're running a business. We're CEOs. What are we supposed to do? Sit back quietly and pretend that people are just going to come to us? Hell no. We want to make sure that we're relatable and that we're sharing our stories so that people know that this is a good option for them as well, if it is a good option for them. I digress. But my point being that don't allow yourselves to be stuck in that fixed mindset. The potential really is limitless. And I also want to share this one thing that I could try to paraphrase it, but I know would come out botched. It blew my mind. So this is kind of how you can ask yourself whether you're in a fixed mindset or whether you're in a growth mindset. Am I a fixed creature that has to look good all the time and validate myself? Or am I a dynamic, growing person that has an infinite, undetermined future to work towards? Does the struggle and confusion mean I'm dumb or I'm not meant to do this? Or does the struggle and confusion mean that I'm growing and I'm learning? I'm making those neural connections stronger and getting smarter. This is a psychologist, so she used words like neural connections. These are two different worlds, and we can choose which one we want to inhabit. So this really is a choice. And really, when the part about the struggles blew my mind. We all face struggles, and it's up to us to let it take us down. Like, are these challenges and these struggles, am I having them? Am I the only one having them? Does that mean that I just can't do this? Or are we looking at, our failures as more of like not yet? And okay, what did I learn from this failure? And what can I do next time to do it better? Or what did I learn? That type of mindset. I just love that so much.
This kind of reminds me of this commercial I saw the other day of this little boy, and he's standing there and he's practicing. Can you guys hear me? It says my internet's being sketchy. Okay. He's practicing hitting the ball, and he throws the ball up and he misses, and he goes, strike one. Throws the ball up again, strike two. Throws the ball up a third time. You think he's going to hit it? He doesn't hit the ball. And so he kind of looks at him. He's a little boy looking down on himself, and he goes, oh, I'm the best pitcher ever. And I was like, this like optimism, pass it on. But I was like, that's so true. Like, it's like an old like 90s commercial. But I was like, that made my day, because like that little boy could just sat there and cried and been pissed off at the world because he missed and hit all 3 strikes or out. But he's like, no, I'm a good pitcher.
I'm a great pitcher. That's awesome. I love that. It's interesting too, and it's interesting that commercial had a boy in it. Part of this Nudge podcast that I listened to, there was another woman who was interviewed. She talked about how females are conditioned at a very young age. And I don't even usually get into the male versus female stuff, but it actually resonated with me a lot. How females are, in our culture, is that how they're bred to be perfect. That we're shielded in a way. That whereas with boys, they almost expect boys to kind of fail forward. Like, girls are always the first to talk. We're the first to walk. We're the first to do this. you know, all this stuff. But that was interesting. She's like, but then how come all the men kind of rule the world and they're the CEOs and they're the, you know, the scientists and all these things? Like, because she went and she visited all these computer labs and all of these like things in the science and engineer sector. And this is when this research started, is because she realized that there weren't a lot of girls. And it was just interesting. So I recommend watching it, but I think that a lot of our feelings of needing to be perfect might stem from that too. We're supposed to get good grades. You know, we're supposed to rely on our grades and our looks to get us through and to be graceful and to be this and to be that, instead of allowing our young girls to kind of fail at some things and go and do something that you're really bad at. Even if you don't like it, just try it out, and, you know, kind of more just for the process and for learning how to do, you know, learning how to fail and getting back up, because that's what builds character and that's what allows us to get back to society too. You know, it's always in our kind of like our rough, tough, darkest moments. We always talk about that we come out of it with stuff to learn and to share and all of that stuff. Whereas if we stay in this pretty perfect little world, that's kind of boring. And what are we going to do with that? And how are we going to teach people? And how are we going to, I don't know, how we the imperfections are, it's a good thing. It's relatable. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting as well. Sit down and look pretty. Right. Exactly. All right. So we're a little past 8:30. Does anyone have any other, like, was that good? Like this kind of, I know that my thoughts were sporadic and like a little all over the place. But I really do think it's an important topic, and I'm happy to put the link to that podcast in the team page too. It was a really, really good one, especially if you're kind of like, I don't know, I like science and research and that kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting in that way. All right, guys, then I will let you go. Thank you so much for calling in and for sharing. I always love to hear from you all too. Oh, and actually I want to get some feedback to hear what you guys think about this. I know I started to mention personal branding, and it's because me and my dad talked a lot about it this weekend when I was at the lake. And I had a thought. Does everyone have a Pinterest account? Yeah, sorta. Here was my thought. I thought it would be kind of fun to spend a half hour together where, you know, we have a glass of wine and we're on our Pinterest accounts and we're creating a mood board about our personal brand. Just kind of pinning some things that make us feel like it's design, right? Like designs that speak to us, that kind of are helping to create this mood of who we are. Because honestly, like, whatever that is for you should probably roll into what your personal brand is. Like, what kind of things do you love? What colors do you love? What designs speak to you? Do polka dots speak to you? Do arrows speak to you like they have for me lately? Do you see, I don't know, do you know what I'm trying to say? I love Pinterest. I just think it'd be kind of fun because that's what makes us unique, what we're putting out there in the social media world. I actually think it's going to help us to create our personal brands and to kind of put ourselves out there. It's a great time too to start looking at words that resonate you if you're, you know, haven't really decided on a team name. And don't be afraid of picking a team name. For those who've been with me for a while, how many times has my name changed? It's been Ambition Army for a long time, and that is what it shall stay. But I've had about 5 team names. Just saying. So anyway, does that sound like a fun idea or kind of silly?
I'm all about collaging, so bring it.
Sounds fun to me.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun, and we can talk a little bit about like I'll definitely have, you know, some tips on personal branding that we can chat about, but more of just like or maybe everyone can bring a little tidbit, you know, because I would love to hear from Lisa too, because, you know, she's like queen design. Michelle has a background in it too. So I would love to, Kelsey, I mean, we have designers on the team, for goodness sakes. Lori too, come on, we need some help, guys. I need help. But we can talk about like filters, we can talk about, I don't know, I just feel like it'd be a fun summary type of call that we could do. That'd be lighthearted after talking about fear. All right, guys. I will let you go now that I just made a crazy face. That means it's time to unwind. I will talk to you all soon. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure to post this recording in the team page. And I love you all. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming.